office/editing room, because that's what it's going to become now. So I'm glad you're on this journey with me in the very beginning, so you get to see kind of like, this is a for real do it yourself. So I'm working the space that I currently have. So I'm retired now, so I got time, and I'm going to spend a lot of time during the winter. So these first videos are really just going to be about me making some videos to get some content to just get them onto the page. They may not be interesting videos for everybody to watch, but I'm going to throw some on the page so I can at least get it started, and I can see where I need to make some changes, because as you know, this Over the Hill page is really, I knew it, all of this. Like, you guys are rocking with me from the start, so you're going to watch me through the beginning and all the mistakes that I'm going to make, and I'm going to probably see lots of critiques. Maybe I won't even read them actually, so just don't even worry about giving me critiques. I've been watching lots of YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos. Now, is that crazy? So I got this 96 GT Performer the other day. I picked it up. I won't give you my secrets as to where I find stuff. I've got a whole bunch of bikes that I'll share with you one day, maybe one at a time. Who knows how I'm going to do that? But with my background, you know, being in BMX bikes, mostly freestyle stuff from the 80s, I've gotten into collecting the bikes, and it all started with just me looking for that one bike, and I've got it right over there. It took me 5 years to find the specific bike that I had when I was when I was a kid, a teenager, whatever you want to call it. And it's the bike that I saved up and worked and did. Like, it was the bike that I had, and I had a lot of pride in having it, because it was a lot of hard work getting it. So let's get this thing off the stand, and I'll tell you what we're doing then. Move this, just set it over here out of the way. All right, and so since I decided to start a YouTube page, I came up with a name and everything, and today was the first opportunity I got to ride my Diamondback Coil EX. It's a 2007. I've had it since it was new. I bought it at Dick's a month or so ago just to get some exercise in. I was riding with one of my daughters. I snapped a bolt on it, which made it inoperable. I was able to take the bolt over to a buddy of mine. I'm going to give him a plug, Drew. He's actually over behind my old shop if you need a mechanic. Those guys are awesome. I took this bolt over to him, Drew and Josh. Josh said, "Don't worry, I got you, brother. I'll fix this bolt." And he did. So the problem that happened today is actually not his fault. It may be my fault. Just did a little try test, and so I was a little disappointed, because sorry about all that noise. As soon as I came up with the YouTube channel name, I talked to my wife about it, and I was excited, and I wanted to get a few minutes on the trails, and I did. I went down there. There was another gentleman who was down there. He just gotten there just like I did, and he happened to ride by me for a second, so I stopped him and had a conversation with him, and talked to him about what I was doing with the YouTube channel and about being over the hill, and that it has a double meaning, mountain bike, plus being old. He thought it was a great idea. I kind of talked to him a little bit more about how God has led me to this point, and it just ended up being a great, crucial conversation. His buddy came and was meeting him, and we all had a great conversation. Actually, he stopped, and after the conversation, or talked for a few minutes, one of the guys asked if he could pray, so we had a nice prayer for a moment, which was awesome, because that's kind of what this is about. And I'm not ever going to hide that, so you guys know. I walk very strong on my faith, and it's not because that's where I started. I did not grow up in church. I didn't believe in God. I spent most of my life being completely rebellious, and I'll share that story with you as we go through this journey together, as how I came to Christ, and that I don't hide it. I'm not shy from it, and I don't want to offend anybody, because I was that guy that said, "Okay, here another one of these Jesus freaks." Well, cool, here I am, Jesus freak I am. So let's get this thing up on the stand, and this bike, because the frame design is kind of a pain in the butt to put on the stand. So, and some of you guys are probably going to say, "Why didn't you do this way? Put it on the seat post." I understand I can put it on the seat post, but that's not going to give me the stability that I want, because this is just a cheaper bike stand. that I got off of, I believe I might get it off Facebook Marketplace. I'm not actually 100% certain that that's where I got it from, but I believe so. I didn't pay much for it, just a few dollars. Because again, not everybody has tons of resources, so start with the resources that we have. So this is the bolt down here that holds the rear end together that broke. And the bad part is I had to take the sprocket off to get to that bolt. And that seemed like a pretty overwhelming job for me to start with. Because I have a background in BMX. I actually don't know how to work on this part of a mountain bike. But I feel like that, with 26 years working on cars, I'm a little bit mechanically inclined, so I figured I'll just sit down and figure it out just like I do with a car. So I just sat down and that's what I did. Unfortunately, I have to remove it to get that bolt out. And I'll spare you all the details of taking the bolt out. I'll edit through this. Hopefully, maybe I don't know, you guys will see my editing skills through that. So bear with me to get myself in a position here, because I'm going to attempt, since I did put a new bolt in, it's not going to work either. I was going to say, I actually made a tool. I actually took one of these before it broke and cut it down so that it would fit back in here. The problem with that is that's a different size Allen wrench than what it takes for this newer bolt. So in order to even get that bolt out the first time, I had to do something that I'd never done before, which was remove this. And it takes a specialty tool that I didn't actually have. So an extractor tool to take the sprocket off here. So I was a little nervous about doing that because I had never done it before. And now that I've already done it once, I can tell you that it actually was pretty simple. And this tool right here was just a couple of dollars. So don't let one tool stop you from working on your bike. I mean, seriously, you may not have the resources. Let's say you don't have a few dollars. Well, that's cool. It came 3 in the pack. So, if somebody needs one, they can hit me up. And I'm sure it's the same way with the other guys, in the bike world. Now, we're going to find that out. But I'm absolutely positive. Somebody called me and said, hey, I've never done this before. I got to take off my sprocket, and I don't exactly know how. It says it needs a tool. I got one. I'm going to let them use it, or they can use the bike stand. They can go over here. I'm just going to help them with it, because that's what we do. We help each other out. So I've got to remove this cap first. This little dust cap. That's what I'm going to call it. It's probably not a proper mountain bike term. Sure, there's a fancy name for it. There we go. That popped out pretty easily. And for right now, even though it's not how I'm going to work, I'm just going to put the tools right here on the stool behind me. This thing's just easy. It's like, they're designed for it. So there's a bolt in here, a 14 millimeter that's holding this one on. So we're going to take this bolt off. That actually did come off a lot easier than it did the first time, because I was afraid that this might happen. Like I said, it was kind of a test run. Let's put this bolt right there so we don't lose it. This little extractor tool is pretty simple. I'm just gonna be honest with you. In my business, when I began working on cars, there was no such thing as YouTube. There was no such thing as Google. There was no such thing as you figure it out. Now, in my training people to do their job, that's not how I handled it. I did not handle it with you to try to figure it out. Use the resources you have. It doesn't matter, if you're older, figure it out. You got, just like with the car audio and window tinting business, I never, ever one time got to a point where I said that I already know too much. Every day is a learning opportunity. You can learn from everybody. I used to learn from guys that were much younger than me. And I'll be honest with you, those over the hill guys, that's our new nickname. We tend not to like to do that. We don't like to really listen to the young guys, but I'm just going to be honest with you for a minute. That's pretty ignorant. We get arrogant on ourselves and thinking we just know it all because of how old we are, but the facts are we don't actually. And you know this by how many times you ask your kids or your grandkids how to do something for you. Probably pretty often. Not because you didn't feel like doing it, but because you didn't know. How do I work this phone? How do I I remember my dad used to ask me all the time how to just even do simple things on his phone. And it used to annoy me pretty bad because I was like, you could just figure it out. You don't have to call me and ask me everything that your cell phone does and how to do it because you can't figure it out. I don't know if I'm making any progress here. Feels like, yeah, it's making some progress. So it's the same thing. Like, if you're gonna ask your kids or grandkids how to operate something on social media, then you know, don't get yourself so wrapped up in being too arrogant to ask them how to do things like walking on the bike or getting a tool or whatever that it is. Like, I know that we always say, you know, those kids, I think they just know it all, but really they do actually know a lot of stuff. So I'd say give them a little bit more credit than we tend to. And I know I fall in that category. I actually hate that I didn't get an opportunity to ride with those two guys today because they asked me to jump on my bike and go with them, and I didn't have a helmet. And I do have a helmet on the way. I don't actually have a mountain bike helmet, and I didn't really want to put on a skateboard helmet or a BMX helmet just to go mess around the local small trails we have. They're not big. I just was messing around on a couple of the wooden features, and with no intentions of like riding, doing much. Like if I was going to fall, I promise you I was going slow enough that I would hurt the feelings of the ground before I was going to hurt myself. Because they did offer me a helmet, and I hopped on my bike to go with them, and lo and behold, get halfway up the beginning of the road, not even to get to the trail, and I could feel the wiggle in the back. And so I had to stop, and unfortunately did not get to ride with those two guys, and I'm horrible with names, so I hope they're actually watching because I told them about this channel, and I hope that they're watching and let them know that I really appreciate the conversation, I appreciate the prayer. It was a little more encouraging than what they even know because I sometimes don't feel qualified to do things that a bigger problem. It shouldn't be flexing. Like it should be spinning freely with it being as loose as it is, and it is not. So that means I did this. I had the same problem with getting that bolt out. So I removed it from my stand, which is, I actually do not like working on bikes like this. Causes a little bit of damage to the seat sometimes, or maybe the grips. So I'm not really a big fan of working on the ground, but I think that takes the pressure off of this bolt in order for me to maybe be able to get it out. Because that is one thing that I did differently. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to just remove this bolt and maybe see if I can put another washer in it. I mean, I'm telling you, there we go. I put this bolt in pretty tight. So it's very surprising to me that I have that much wiggle room. Very surprising, actually. So I will spare you the rest of the details. I'll go ahead and pause the video and come back to it in a minute. So I'll skip the boring process of tearing everything apart and putting it all back together. It just kind of would have been a useless video unless you have this specific bike. I was able to hopefully fix this bolt. One thing I didn't do the other day just because I wanted to make sure that it would even hold is I did not put Loctite on it on purpose. That was not by accident, that was on purpose. So I took it all back apart and had a lot of trouble getting it apart. That's why I didn't, that's why I edited it off, you know, cut all this out, the part that you all don't need to see because it's just waste your time. Nobody wants to have their time wasted. I got the sprocket back on, I got the bolt back in with some Loctite, so I'm hoping that holds it this time. If it doesn't, I'm kind of running out of ideas on what I can do to even make this bike manageable. I'm not going to take this down any big jumps or anything like that. So if you're worried about that, don't be. Don't be concerned that I'm going to break something on. I've kind of tidied up all the bolts on it. I've been through the whole bike a lot. This bolt does concern me enough to where I'm not going to hit any big jumps because I don't need it sharing on me when I'm in the middle of the jump or the landing, because once it breaks off, the swing arm then will drop down, and so it's way too dangerous for me to try to hit jumps. Just going to wait till I get the proper bike to do that, and I'll have more on that in the future. But for now, we're going to start with what we have. I think it's pretty safe just to ride around basic trail riding, which is what I did today. Just, I'll be honest with you, I did hit a few little small jumps and tried some of the wooden features. Just I like to ride, so I tested out with it. I think that's what made it come loose. It's not going to get any tighter than what it is now. So I want to show you the extra tools that it took to do the job. It's not what I had planned on. So again, you can see it right in there. That bolt. I'll take it to the other side. Move here. That bolt right there. It is tapered on the inside, so it has to have like a cone shape on both sides. Has to be that specific size because the part of this frame acts as a washer. So with my working on car background, I'll be honest with you, I call it ghetto rigged. I ghetto rigged it. That's why I'm not going to hit any major jumps. I'm going to test it out for a little while, see how it holds up. I know for a fact that it was just the Loctite that it needed. It did wiggle itself loose. I didn't have enough washers on it, so I added another washer and put the Loctite on it. So earlier I watched some YouTube videos on how to make YouTube videos, and one of the guys said, hey, at the end of your video, make some poses. That's what I just did. I'm going to see if that works. Use those poses to see if I can create the thumbnail out of that.